Hey, you guys. So, Sophie is cleaning up Wizard Howl's house in the pretense of trying to find a solution to breaking the curse between Howl and Calcifer so that she can have her own curse broken by Calcifer. And that was their bargain. So, let's keep reading. No, you don't, he said quite pleasantly. I want it dirty, thank you. Sophie gaped at him. Where did you come from? I saw you go out. I meant you to, said Howl. You done your worst with Calcifer and poor Michael. It's such a reason you descend on me today. And whatever Calcifer told you, I am a wizard, you know. Didn't you think I could do magic? This undermined all Sophie's assumptions. She would have died rather than admit it. Everyone knows you're a wizard, young man, she said severely, but that doesn't alter the fact that your castle is the dirtiest place I've ever been in. She looked into the room past Howl's dangling blue and silver sleeve. The carpet on the floor was littered like a bird's nest. She glimpsed peeling walls and a shelf full of books, some of them very queer looking. There was no sign of a pile of gnawed hearts, but those were probably behind or under the huge four-poster bed. Its hangings were gray-white with dust, and they prevented her from seeing what the window looked out into. Howl hung his sleeve in front of her face. Uh-uh, don't be nosy. I'm not being nosy, Sophie protested. That room! Yes, you are nosy, said Howl. You're dreadfully nosy. Horribly bossy, appallingly clean old woman. Now control yourself. You're victimizing us all. But it's a pigsty, said Sophie. I can't help what I am. Yes, you can, said Howl, and I like my room the way it is. You must admit I have a right to live in a pigsty if I want. Now go downstairs and think of something else to do, please. I hate quarreling with people. There was nothing Sophie could do but hobble away with her bucket clanking by her side. She was a little shaken, and very surprised that Howl had not thrown her out of the castle on the spot. But since he had not, she thought of the next thing that needed doing at once. She opened the door beside the stairs, found the drizzle had almost stopped, and sallied out into the yard, where she began vigorously sorting through piles of dripping rubbish. There was a metallic clash, and Howl appeared again, stumbling slightly in the middle of the large sheet of rusty iron Sophie had been going to move next. Not here either, he said. You are a terror, aren't you? Leave this yard alone. I know just where everything is in it, and I won't be able to find the things I need for my transport spells if you tidy 'em up. So there was probably a bundle of souls or a box of chewed hearts somewhere out here, Sophie thought. She felt really thwarted. Tidying up is what I'm here for, she shouted at Howl. Then you must think of a new meaning for your life, Howl said. For a moment it seemed as if he was going to lose his temper too. His strange pale eyes all but glared at Sophie, but he controlled himself and said, Now, trot along indoors, you overactive old thing, and find something else to play with before I get angry. I hate getting angry. Sophie folded her skinny arms. She did not like being glared at by eyes like glass marbles. Of course you hate getting angry, she retorted. You don't like anything unpleasant, do you? You're a slitherer-outer, that's what you are. You slither away from anything you don't like. Howl gave a forced sort of smile. Well now, he said. Now we both know each other's faults. Now go back into the house. Go on, back. He advanced on Sophie, waving her toward the door. The sleeve of his waving arm caught the edge of the rusty metal, jerked, and tore. Damnation, said Howl, holding up the trailing blue and silver ends. Look what you've made me do. I can mend it, Sophie said. Howl gave her another glassy look. There you go again, he said. How you must love servitude. He took his torn sleeve gently between his fingers of his right hand and pulled it through them. As the blue and silver fabric left his fingers, there was no tear in it at all. There, he said. Do you understand? Sophie hobbled back indoors, rather chastened. Wizards clearly had no need to work in the ordinary way. Howl had shown her he really was a wizard to be reckoned with. Why didn't he turn me out? She said, half to herself and half to Michael. Beats me, said Michael, but I think he goes by Calcifer. Most people who come in here either don't notice Calcifer or they're scared stiff of him. Chapter 6, in which Howl expresses his feelings with green slime. Howl did not go out that day, nor for the next few days. Sophie sat quietly in the chair by the hearth, keeping out of his way and thinking. She saw that, much as Howl deserved it, she had been taking out her feelings on the castle when she was really angry with the Witch of the Waste. And she was a little upset at the thought that she was here on false pretenses. Howl might think Calcifer liked her, but Sophie knew Calcifer had simply seized on the chance to make a bargain with her. Sophie rather thought she had let Calcifer down. This state of mind did not last. Sophie discovered a pile of Michael's clothes that needed mending. She fetched out thimble, scissors, and thread from her sewing pocket and set to work. By that evening she was cheerful enough to join Calcifer's silly little song about saucepans. "Happy in your work?" Howl said sarcastically. "I need more to do," Sophie said. "My old suit needs mending if you have to feel busy," said Howl. This seemed to mean that Howl was no longer annoyed. Sophie was relieved. She had been almost frightened that morning. It was clear Howl had not yet caught the girl he was after. Sophie listened to Michael asking rather obvious questions about it, and Howl slithering neatly out of answering any of them. "He is a slitherer-outer," Sophie murmured to a pair of Michael's socks. "He can't face his own wickedness." And she watched Howl being restlessly busy in order to hide his discontent. That was something Sophie understood rather well. At the bench, Howl worked a good deal harder and faster than Michael, putting spells together in an expert but slapdash way. From the look on Michael's face, most of the spells were both unusual and hard to do. But Howl would leave a spell midway, dash up to his bedroom to look after something hidden, and no doubt sinister, going on up there, and then shortly race out into the yard, tinker with a large spell out there. Sophie opened the door a crack and was rather amazed to see the elegant wizard kneeling in the mud with his long sleeves tied together behind his neck to keep them out of the way, while he carefully heaved a tangle of greasy metal into a special framework of some kind. That spell was for the king. Another overdressed and scented messenger arrived with a letter and a long, long speech in which he wondered if Howl could possibly spare time, no doubt valuably employed in other ways, to bend his powerful and ingenious mind to a small problem experienced by his royal majesty. To wit, how an army might get its heavy wagons through marsh and rough ground. Howl was wonderfully polite and long-winded in reply. He said no. But the messenger spoke for a further half-hour, at the end of which he and Howl bowed to one another, and Howl agreed to do the spell. "This is a bit ominous," Howl said to Michael when the messenger had gone. "What did Solomon have to get himself lost in the waste for? The king seems to think that I'll do it instead." "He wasn't as inventive as you, by all accounts," Michael said. "I'm too patient and too polite," Howl said gloomily. "I should have overcharged him even more." Howl was equally patient and polite with customers from Porthaven, but as Michael anxiously pointed out, the trouble was that Howl did not charge these people enough. This was after Howl had listened for an hour to the reasons why a seaman's wife could not pay him a penny yet, and then promised the sea captain a wind spell for almost nothing. Howl eluded Michael's arguments by giving him a magic lesson. Sophie sewed buttons on Michael's shirts and listened to Howl going through a spell with Michael. "I know I'm slapdash," Howl was saying, "but there's no need for you to copy me. Always read it through carefully first. The shape of it should tell you a lot, whether it's self-fulfilling or self-discovering or simple incantation or mixed action and speech. When you've decided that, go through the spell again and decide which bits mean what they say and which bits are put as a puzzle. You're getting to the more powerful kinds now. You'll find that every spell of power has at least one deliberate mistake or mystery in it to prevent accidents. You'll have to spot those. Now take this spell." Listening to Michael's halting replies to Howl's questions and watching Howl scribble remarks on the paper with a strange everlasting quill pen, Sophie realized that she could learn a lot too. It dawned on her that if Martha could discover a spell to swap herself and Letty about to swap herself and Letty about at Mrs. Fairfax, then she ought to be able to do the same here. With a bit of luck, there might be no need to rely on Calcifer. And we'll stop here for today. Thanks for listening.